the jam right here. You can't even hate. Don't even hate. This is the jam right here.
Don't know quite what to expect. A little scared, but what the heck? My desire is always greater than my fear.
Amen to that, sister.
Big dreams and faded jeans fit together like a team. Always busting at the seams. Big dreams and faded jeans. Just my own guitar and me. Out to find my destiny. Nashville is the place to be. For big dreams and faded jeans. Put out my thumb.
What is up, guys? We are finally back on the build. I know it looks a lot different from the last time we made a video. I got this whole roof framed. I didn't video it because it was super gusty and windy. Wasn't comfortable, especially not doing it on camera. So I just buckled in and did it. No cameras, no anything, no music. I was just trying to focus. If you want to see some pictures of that happening, they're on my Instagram. But anyway, we still have the roof over the master suite to frame up. And I wanted to talk to you guys about something that's going on this build. As you can see, there are no eaves. There's no rafter tails coming out on any sides of the building. It's framed pretty much as a smooth shell. The reason I'm doing this, and I will have another video that will get into more detail with this, is I am zip taping my walls to my roof decking, which means there will be no leakage from the seam of the roof to the interior house. So if you look at the most common areas where homes leak, it's where those rafter tails kick out from your attic or from your house out to the exterior. So that's an easy way for air to get in, an easy way for a lot of things to get in, insects, whatever else, if you don't seal that perfectly. So to avoid that, we're actually zip taping our sheathing to our roof decking. Then we're gonna frame our rafter tails onto the roof, right? We're gonna frame them out so they're exterior rafters. Basically, I think they call them closed-end rafter tails. And that way we have a way tighter envelope on the home, especially since I opted for two large sliding glass doors here in the front. I'm gonna be losing a lot of energy there. I wanted to try to maximize every other aspect of the house that I could. With that being said, I know you see a lot of zip tape up here. Some mistakes were made. You might see an interesting nailing pattern over there. I was putting this up when it was gusty outside as well. And when I got it up there, the wind started blowing and I was just throwing nails in it wherever I could land a stud. I was just trying to get it secure because I wasn't trying to get blown off the ladder. I already knocked down the ladder once. So that's kind of sucky, but the cool thing about Zip System is they have a lot of fail safes in place. For example, they have the liquid flashing, which is a liquid flashing. I mean, that's pretty much self-explanatory. And I can put it over the nail holes. There are some that went through and totally missed a stud. I can go through and put the liquid flashing over that nail. I'm gonna leave the nail in there, but I'm gonna go ahead and put that liquid flashing over the nail. That's gonna seal up that nail hole. Any nails that were oversunk, that are sitting too deep into the sheathing, I can put liquid flashing over those as well, and it solves a lot of the problems. So that's the awesome thing about the Zip System, is that if something were to go wrong, like you were to have, a hole get busted through there, you can cut it out, fix it, tape it. If you have nails that shoot too far in, you can put that liquid flashing on it and save yourself. So there's a lot of ways during the installation to keep everything perfect while even fixing your errors. So that's what I love about Zip System. And let's dive into it. I actually put my mic on today because it is insanely windy. I'm even standing in my cut zone here where I left a window partially sheathed because the wind has just been crazy this entire build. So today what we're actually doing is framing the roof on this portion of the build. So we have a valley roof that we're going to be framing off the main roof that we just framed, and we're actually doing like an over frame. I'm not sure what they call it, a sleeper frame. I don't know what they call it. And this is actually the first time I've done it, so maybe we can learn together. But what I'm doing is I am connecting these two areas together, and what I don't want to run into is having a ridge from my from this area to be higher than the ridge from the existing roof I've already framed. Because if I do end up with a higher ridge than that one, then I have to do a weird little like cut on the back side to do, it's just weird. I've never done it like this before, and I don't want to end up with a weird little funky cut piece to continue that ridge on the opposite side to make it connect and look somewhat okay, and usually it looks like crap no matter what, and I'll put a picture up here and show you what it looks like. But anyway, so what you got to do first is figure out your pitch that you want to frame when connecting to your existing pitch. So I know that my span on my original roof, which is what's right here, is a 20-foot span, and I'm at a 7-inch pitch, which gives me a rise. I forgot the number, I didn't write it down. I think it was like 5'9" something. So I know that the ridge is around 5'9", give or take, depending on the lumber you're using and your ridge beam. So in the end, I know that my rise is 5'9"-ish. So I know that when I do my calculations for this roof, I want to make sure my rise is below 5'9". So you want to see what your span is. My span here is actually 24, so the span here is wider. So if I just went ahead and framed this at a 7 pitch, which is the same as that pitch, my ridge would end up considerably higher than what my ridge is on the existing roof. So I can't frame this as a just standard 7-inch pitch because it won't work out and it'll look crappy. So now I have to calculate down. So you're going to go down to a 6 pitch. You're going to do all your calculations on a 6 pitch and see what your rise is. I think I did that, and the 6 pitch was, I think, 5'11" inches. So I was still too high. So then I had to jump down to a 5-inch pitch, and that put me, I think, at a 5'6" rise, which will land me under my ridge of my existing roof. Now I'm going to show you guys the calculations on how to cut your rafters, how to calculate your rafters here in just a second. But first things you got to figure out is your pitch, because you need those numbers to calculate. So you need to know your span, you need to know your pitch, and then you can calculate your rafter cuts and all that, and lengths and whatnot. So without any wasted time, let's go into cutting or calculating rafter length and all that different stuff. Let's do it. I'm gonna do the math here, and hopefully this camera can flip this around and show you guys. I have what we call a construction notepad, which is a scrap piece of lumber. And I've calculated my mathematics, which are very technical, on this scrap piece of 2x6. So first we need to know 3 numbers. The first 3 numbers you need to know when calculating your rafter cuts is the pitch, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, whatever your pitch is. So a pitch is the steepness of the roof. I could have said that better, but whatever. So the larger the number, the steeper your pitch, the lower the number, the flatter your pitch. So this would be a 7 pitch, this would be a 3 pitch, if that makes sense. So we are going with a 5 pitch. You can choose your pitch. Anything below a 3 pitch, I think, regardless of how you frame it, needs a ridge beam because it's going to be load bearing. Anything above a 3 pitch, I believe, don't quote me on this, can just have a typical ridge board because it's not load bearing, it's just holding those members together. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's accurate. So obviously with some exceptions. So now that we have our pitch, which is 5, I know that the I put run there. Let's do span. The span of my building, that's measuring outside of top plate to outside of top plate. I know that mine is exactly 24 feet on the dot. So now that I have my pitch, which is 5, I have my span, which is 24, I need one more number, and that is my ridge width. So if you're doing a ridge board, say maybe a 2x12, then you know that the 2x12 is 1.5 inches thick. So you're going to put 1.5 inches there for your ridge. If you're doing any type of glue lam or LVL, you're going to have to figure out what that thickness is. In my case, I'm doing an LVL, and it's going to be 3.5 inches thick. So I know I have a 3.5 inch ridge. Those are the only 3 numbers that you need to know to calculate your rafter cuts. So 5-inch pitch, 24-foot run, 3.5 inch ridge beam. So I need to find out my adjusted run. I'm going to basically do 24. I'm going to subtract the 3.5, whatever your ridge is. So I'm going to take my span, I'm going to deduct my ridge board or beam from that, and it's going to give me an adjusted run, which in my case, let me grab my phone here real quick, is 24 feet minus 3 inches 1/2 equals 23 feet 8.5. So I know that now my adjusted run subtracting the ridge board or ridge beam is going to be 23 feet, 8.5 inches. So now I'm going to take that number and I'm just going to divide it by 2. Super simple, right? You with me? It gives me 11, 10, and 1/4. So my adjusted run here is 11 feet, 10 inches, and 1/4 inch. So that's my run. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press run on my calculator. It's entered as my run. Now, all you gotta do is say, okay, what's my pitch? In this case, 5-inch pitch. Super simple. And then I'm going to hit diagonal. Now I know that my diagonal is 12 feet, 10 1/8. All right, guys, so first thing you want to do is grab your speed square. I'm using a large one in this case because I'm cutting 2x10s. Find your common rafter location and then pick the whatever your pitch is. In this case, we're doing a 5. Set your pivot point of your speed square at the tip of your board. Go ahead and score it down and then give it a cut, and that's that. So when you measure down the length of your diagonal, which is going to be your rafter length, make sure you set your square at the same position down on the bottom side. So your plumb cut is going to be the same direction as your ridge cut. So I'm going to hook my tape onto the edge of the board, the long side. I'm going to go all the way down and mark my length, which I think was 12 foot 10 1/8. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put my pivot point at the mark I made, and then I'm going to hold it to a 5 pitch, and I'm going to score my line straight down. Now in this case, I'm not doing a rafter tail, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut my seat cut. I'm going to turn my square in this orientation, and at the very top you can see a 3.5 inch mark is where the square comes off the board. That's my top plate. I'm doing 2x4 framing, so I need 3.5 inches of bearance on the top of the wall. I went ahead and marked that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it out. So in this case, you would leave a rafter tail past this point and just cut out the bird's mouth, but since we are not doing rafter tails on this build, I'm just going to go ahead and cut this straight down. Here I'm showing you that if you wanted to do a 2 foot, 16 inch, whatever it is, rafter tail, you would just measure down from that point, make a new mark, and then cut your board clean through wherever you wanted your rafter to be. But that's not what we're doing in this case. So we are going to just go ahead and cut this flush and cut the bird's mouth out. By the way, this saw is amazing. I love it. An easy way to make this cut flush, since you are cutting on an angle, is do a plunge cut. It's basically where you just hold your saw up and then you drop it down and it cuts. Wow. Why you always follow me with the camera? What do you want? I'm trying to go use the bathroom, okay? I'm trying to go on the other side of the camera, so I'm not on YouTube going to the bathroom, all right? So, stop it. Hey! Hey! All right, guys, so now I'm just cutting the rafters. I cut that first rafter, and I'm using that as a template. So now I don't have to measure each time. I just take that one rafter, I drop it on top of my boards, score it, using it as a template, and then I can just cut them all at once.
Son of a man who worked his fingers to the bone, just trying to make something out of nothing, you know. He never wanted silver, gold, or the finer things, just a wife and kids, a home, and the American dream. Whoa, how you gonna step in line? Whoa, baby, this is our time to rewrite our American dream. I wanna see the world from the edge of my seat, through a big windshield or a plane, not a TV screen. Don't you need the road to tell you you really are? Find out whether or not a man could ever change his stars. Whoa, how you gonna step in line? Whoa, baby, this is our
All right, guys, so I'm about to jump into framing up this rake wall, and it's a really simple way to do this if you use your calculator, to where you can cut all of your studs on your rake wall or gable wall and not have to climb up and measure and cut and all that different stuff. So the first thing you want to do is figure out your run. Your run is going to be your stud placement, 24 inches on center, 16 inches on center, 19 and 3/16, whatever it is. Use that as your run. So in this case, I'm 16 inches on center, so I'm going to do 16-inch run. My pitch of my roof is obviously 5. I'm going to do 5-inch pitch. And then I'm going to hit rise, and it gives me 6 inches and 11/16. Now I know that if I can get the first number of my stud, all I need to do is add 6 and 11/16 to each stud, and it'll fit perfectly. So I know that using 2x10s with a double top plate on my gable wall makes my first stud 5 1/4 inch. Now all I need to do is add that 6 and 11/16 to each stud, cut them with the 5 pitch bevel at it, and it'll put me in the exact spot I need to be in. In this case, I'm actually just putting the bottom in and tacking the bottom in because it started to rain. I didn't want to climb up on the roof. So I'm just tacking the bottom in, and then I will climb up there probably tomorrow, hit my gable wall studs to be plumb, and then we will have a perfect gable wall and be good to go. All right, guys, that is it for today. Thanks for stopping by, and if you haven't already, I would appreciate you subscribing to the channel, liking this video if it helped you out at all. It's starting to sprinkle a little too much. It's getting kind of wet up there. It's about 5 o'clock, so I'm just going to call it for today. We're going to be back. We're going to sheath it. We're going to put the second top plate onto this rake wall, and then we're gonna go from there. So anyway, guys, that's all for this episode, and I hope to see you guys next Thursday for the new episode of getting this sheathing on. So much love, y'all.